Support for the Players, the pop culturist PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the ultimate men's hygiene bundle, the Performance Package. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code FTP at au.manscaped.com. If my math is correct, and it might just be, that's about 8 million balls.
For the Players.
I'm Ryan Betson.
Oh shit, I'm Paul James.
And this is For the Players, the pop culturist PlayStation podcast with over 40 years of playing PlayStation and over 10 plus years in that games media combined. I'd like to thank you for joining us in this PlayStation conversation. This PlayStation conversation happens every Monday morning at 8 a.m. on your podcast services, 9 a.m. on those YouTubes. Sorry, Paul threw me out. He was munching on donuts, but
It was a triangle at one point.
If you want to join the PlayStation conversation, you can head over to our socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Discord. All those links are in the description below. But if you want to join the conversation as it happens, head over to twitch.tv/thepopculturist, where you can watch us record this show live, where you can jump in the chat and become part of the show. If you want to support the show, you can. Tell your friends, tell your family about this PlayStation pod. If you are listening on podcast services, be sure to give us a 5-star rating and a written review. If you are listening to us, watching us on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment below. I endeavor to answer every single comment. And if you want to support us financially, you can at patreon.com/thepopculturist, as well as our merchandise store, popculturist.com/shop, where you can buy shirts and other assorted shit with our logos on it. Or you can help support the brands that help support us by going over to au.manscaped.com using the promo code FTP. And but we'll have a little bit more to say about that later. Padge!
Yeah, if you're a bit flush with cash and you want to, you're contributing to PopC, if you can send me a little bit of money, I'll send you my account details for it over to keep my donut thing going. That'd be great. I'll be all in.
Look, let's get this out of the way. Well, I'll ask how you're doing in a minute. But for those watching the video, for those watching us on Twitch, you would have seen that Padge started the show with donuts. So this week, PlayStation have announced this little cross promotion with Donut King. Where, what is it called? Eat, play, win? Eat, win, play? Something like that?
It doesn't say
it's
it
on the
box
front.
anyway.
It's on the front where there's a web address.
There's just peel to play. So that's the...
And then there's the code name. I think it's Eat, Win, Play. So with Donut King, if you go and buy a 4-pack of PlayStation-themed donuts, and they come in the sacred symbols, you can have the opportunity to go into a draw to win like a PS5, some games, and a bunch of nonsense. I just bought the donuts because they're PlayStation donuts.
So did I. They taste like normal old donuts. They're good. But they're just normal donuts.
No, just normal donuts.
Also, and I apologize to you and the quality of the show here, because we know that eating in a podcast, especially like anyone who's listening on the podcast, the audio version, this is a shit move on my part.
But it's on brand. It's on theme.
It's a branded thing.
We can't shit on it if we if it's PlayStation. Oh,
I've only
snap.
got this corner left. That's
Holy
it.
crap. Hang on. Here in the chat, Jess, the Rockamummy herself, twitch.tv/Rockamummy, has donated $10 dues to the Twitch stream. And they said 4 more donuts.
So that's half a box. You're a star.
That is how, yeah. So it looks like I'm going to Donut King tomorrow.
Just pick up 2 symbols of your choosing.
Yeah, just give me X and O.
Okay.
Just,
I was going to say, let's start with the most important conversation. What are rank the symbols from best to worst?
Ranked from best to worst.
One being best, 4 being worst. You can start at the bottom if you like.
Cross, square, circle, triangle.
Cross, square, circle. Oh yeah, okay. No, I would reverse circle and triangle simply because circle's meant to your back, your exit. It's kind of got a negative connotation. So
yeah, but I mean, like in terms of
triangle is your heavy attack. in a God of War, like in a melee
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
It makes
But like,
you feel badass.
if you go back to all your PS2s and whatever, like triangle is like just you open your menu or something useless. It's like not always the most handiest of buttons. Cross is unquestionably the most used button, as it should be. You know, square's pretty tight. It's normally attack. Circle is normally, you know, something pretty cool as well. It's drift if you're in a car racing game, etc. But
You and I that play lots and lots of car racing.
yeah, so many of them. But as Magic Cast in the chat says, Ryan and Paul, have I accessed the multiverse? You may have. So we did take a week off last week as we took the Easter break for Max and myself. Max and I have both been having a bit of a rough patch, not with each other. When, you know, we're still dating, which is nice. But just in general, life is sort of has kicked us both in the butts. So, and that's another reason why Max isn't here today. He has had a loss in the family. He's second in almost as many weeks. So he has opted to have the week off, which is perfectly fine because family always comes first. So Padge,
here who's still looking for a home.
Yeah, so Padge, if there's any opportunity ever in a PlayStation show, you find Paul just hanging around outside, waiting.
I mean, I just dropped the GIF on Twitter recently in a thread there. The old "Can I come too?" one from The Simpsons.
Yeah, it was pretty much what it was.
It's 100% one of those moments again here too.
And I ain't complaining. I will always have Padge on the show when we can. And look, who knows? Who knows what the future may hold? You know, maybe this will be a three-face PlayStation pod in the future.
Oh, we're gonna have a threesome going forward.
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, we you know, maybe that's what this needs. Maybe that's what the show needs, Padge. Maybe it needs a refresh. Maybe it needs 3 white men talking about PlayStation.
Because there's not enough white dudes talking.
There is not enough white dudes talking video games, especially because we do know.
Also, Malt Show's all in on a threesome.
Yeah, we
Max
do
isn't
know
here, so you can join us, mate.
that that the collective noun for a group of white middle-aged heterosexual men is a podcast.
It's a podcast.
Yeah, so if there's 2 is just it's fine, but 3, I think 3 might be that magic number. Because Rocker in the chat does ask how many episodes has Padge guest on now. I don't know, quite a number. Tens, 10 plus?
Yeah, we're definitely in the double digits.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know. If someone wants to make it their pet project to go check that out, at least 100.
Well, we've done almost 250. And Padge has been on some of them. So it's not too bad. Not too bad.
Yeah.
How are you been, my friend? How have you been?
I'm going well. It's school holidays at the moment. I was off for 4 or 5 days in Queensland there, getting a little bit of sun and time by the beach, which was nice because we're not going to see any of that shit up here now or down here anymore. And then got back and just started piling into some games. So I've been working my way through a few games in the last week that all really exciting. Stuff that's out and one that's not that I can't talk about yet.
Oh,
good times.
Mystery games.
Do you want me to dive into details on them?
No, we'll just catch up everyone how we've been for the last week and stuff. So, like, what's been going on in the world of Padge since we last saw you? It's been a while? A couple months?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe a month or 2.
Well, we did Rainbow Six, and then we did something. Then I think you guessed it another.
I think I had to fill in 1 week as well, but I
couldn't remember when it was.
Time's a flat circle, and 2020's fucked. It's still 2020, right?
Yeah, it's time is a thing that we are all aware of, and that's about it.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, school holidays, so naturally, like that's just a nice 2 weeks off from work, bit of time with the wife and kids, and then spend a bit of time smashing out some games. We're in this awesome period where kind of the floodgates of big new AAA titles have started to kind of close. As I mentioned, and obviously highlighted the fact there's a game that I can't talk about at the moment. There's still a little trickle of titles that are coming along, which is cool, but it's an exciting opportunity to go back and play some stuff. I just randomly found myself playing Beat Saber the other night, which was awesome.
Nice.
Because like, why the fuck am I playing LMFAO's Party Rock Anthem at 12 a.m.
Like midnight? I would also.
Why am I doing that? But I loved every moment of it because, fuck, it's just a good song.
It is. But yeah, I'm on leave too, which is great. So I had, with my job in support services, there does tend to be a term-like structure. So I get, scheduled breaks as well, which is nice.
Normally, on coattails. I get it.
Yeah, normally I don't take them off, but I felt I needed to this one, especially after some of the chats that we had last week about just sort of where I was at, and I was like, I need a break and take some time. So I did. I've had the week off, which has been good. Now, one of the things I talked about in the last episode we did, I talked about how my home conditions have changed, and they changed back in November, and what they are now. So over the break I had my son, I had James, come stay at my house for the first time ever.
He slept the whole night too. He had a good time.
Yeah. So we've tried to transition. We've tried to get him to, try out staying at my house before. But his mum was here, so she stayed in the spare room, and just to sort of get him comfortable with the space, because he's never slept anywhere without her ever.
Yeah.
So it was we're trying a slow transition thing, and they went well. That was really cool. And then, but over this week, we tried for the first time with just he and I. And it went off an absolute treat. It was amazing. Like, we cooked dinner together. We went to the supermarket beforehand to get stuff for dinner. We stopped at Big W just because we could, and we got some Nerf guns just because we could. So then we had Nerf gun fights. Then we made dinner together. Then we had some Nerf gun fights again. Then we chilled out and went to sleep. And then he slept the whole night through, which is brilliant. He woke up and he was so proud of himself, because it's the first time that he's ever done it. He's just so full of himself. It was fantastic. And then a couple of nights later, we tried it again, just because it's school holidays. I was off. Millie had to work, so I got him again. Did it all over again. Just as successful as the first time.
Nice.
Took him to bounce. Bounce one of those trampoline places here in Geelong. Kid, which is an awesome place. Loved it, because my son is just a ball of energy, right? So putting him into a place where he can just jump around like an absolute crazy person, it was insane. It was so good. I've talked about sort of where I'm at, especially the last little bit of time. I'm not doing well mentally, right? And especially off the back of everything that went down the back end of last year, a lot of the challenges that I have been facing personally have been a lot of self-worth and things and like that. And I look back and I look at the time, I wasn't a very good partner, hence why that ended. And I wasn't a very good father. My priorities were all kinds of jacked up. I wasn't focusing on my family as I should have, and all these things. I was never a bad father. I was just a father. He never went without. He always had everything he needed. I was there when I should have been, all that sort of stuff. But I could have always been better. And that's a big part of the journey that I'm doing now, is to not just better myself for me, but also for him. I need to be the better father that I should be. And we're getting fucking tense now, aren't we? But
I mean, people have heard me on putting in work when I was with Jono, I don't know, 6 months ago, 12 months ago, whatever it is now, kind of describing similar sorts of things. Now, the outcome's not the same, but kind of wrestling with the same sort of things in the situation I'd kind of created for myself with how I, for the most part, it was how I get consumed in this stuff that was causing a lot of issues
for me too. Yeah,
for wife and kids. That was the real origin of my sort of issues that I was having there. And so no, dive into it as much as you like, and it's not an issue at all.
But the big point of all that is, after those nights with him, and he was happy, and he was comfortable, and he slept the whole night, and he ate all his dinner, he just smiled and laughed the whole time. for the first time in, I can't tell you how long, I felt like a great father.
Good to hear, man.
I can't undersell how powerful of a feeling that was. So the next day, like when I took him back home, and he was just so happy, and he, enjoyed himself. I can't. Yeah.
We're getting a bit of dead air because you're in a bit of a state, and I'm feeling them well up on my end as well. So
yeah,
but,
no, it's it's important.
Podcasting, everyone.
Yeah, no, it's for me. It's just important. It's important to share. Yeah, especially on the back of how I've been feeling and my mental health and that sort of stuff. And
no, but you've needed a win, so to have these like kind of a mental win in that sense. And it sounds like you've had a couple again in really close proximity, thanks to having cashed in on the school holidays and those opportunities that come from it.
Yeah, because we're still working out what my arrangements are with him. We're still trying to suss that out because not knowing how he was going to go and all that sort of stuff before. We didn't want to make any blanket rules before we knew how comfortable he was, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's good. It looks like that's something we hopefully could do now, a bit more locked in, which is nice. But yeah, to have that feeling, because I can't tell you the last time I felt like a good father.
And yet you described yourself as feeling like a great father recently, so it's awesome to hear, man.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't tell you the last time I felt that. So to have that come off of this, I think great father is probably an exaggeration, but I certainly felt like a good father. I felt like I had done good by him for the first time in a long time. And that was good. It was huge. It was powerful.
Here's to more of that, man.
I can't wait for more of that. But then to bookend that bullshit, so all this lovely win, then that same day that I started the day all fucking happy and full of like nothing but good vibes.
Smash some donuts.
No, I had because I'm renting, obviously, because I don't live in the house that I helped build. Rent Safe, which is a part. It's newly, the rental market has done this thing where they're like, hey, by law, people, these people must come and check rental properties to make sure whatever, right? They check electricity and gas. I was like, sick. All right, done. I'll book it in. My house is currently without heating because it turns out the heater that I had, there's two in my house. One of them didn't work at all. The other one just was a big fan of pumping carbon monoxide in the lounge room.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Especially after I reflected upon the times of me lying on the couch watching TV with the heater on, feeling very lightheaded, being like, man, I'm tired. Nope. Turns out
you were high as fuck.
Turns out I was slowly dying. Not by choice. So it was a fucking experience. But yeah, so my house is cold as fuck right now. I'm so cold.
I mean, you and I probably got a similar situation. Me in a shed, you in your heaterless house.
Yeah, and then but with that, because the thing was all busted, like the electricity, the electrician. There's no safety switch in my fucking meter box. The switchboard needs to be updated. There's a random light in my courtyard that has no weatherproofing, so if it rains and that's on, it's just gonna fucking short. But because there's no safety switch, that's fucking dangerous.
No, this is going to come back to you though, right?
No, not at all. This is all the stuff that was in the house. Like this is all like structural stuff. So I went from thinking that I was finally a good father to then turning around and going, hey, the house you live in is literally uninhabitable. And I was like, I can't have my kid in this house because there's no heat. Can't have him be cold.
So do we have an ETA on when all this sort of shit can be sorted out?
I don't know. We'll wait and see, I guess. Wait and see. Like, really, it's technically uninhabitable now because I'm living in it and there's no heating. Apparently, it's a legal requirement, is some sort of heating. So, that's rad. So, it started really good, and then it shat itself, and then. So, I tend to either have really fucking good shit or real bad shit, which is a ton of fun.
It'll get sorted out soon. Your landlord won't want to be... you should, based on that, it being uninhabitable, you shouldn't be paying any rent. So that landlord will want to sort that shit out real fast. Otherwise, it's just wasted money.
Very true. I'll hopefully get something sorted. But and also this weekend I went because as I've been talking about here, I've been getting more involved in the local independent wrestling scene, which I have been for like couple of years now, which has been a ton of fun. This weekend, a very cool event happened in Geelong called Lucha Fantastica. So it's a traveling luchador show, but essentially what it is it's luchador wrestling, but also a fiesta. So like there's a luchador named Chico who just stands in the ring or ringside with just like a bottle of tequila and just pours it into people's faces. All you have to do is yell "Chica" at him and he will come and put tequila in your face.
Should have been there.
And it was awesome. And then there was really cool themed lucha matches. So I was there just to like set the ring up and then wait and then pack it up and take it out. That was my entire job for the night. But I got to watch and enjoy the show. It was absolute bonkers. It was very, very cool. So if you ever if there's ever any Lucha Fantastica in your area, totally check it out because it's a fucking good night. Like if you just go get hammered and watch some fun wrestling, it's awesome stuff. It's awesome stuff.
I mean, you had me go get hammered. So
yeah. You and I need it. You and I were meant to hang out like 2 weeks ago, Padge.
Yeah, I'm sure we probably will. I mean, we've been talking about it for ages and ages.
But yeah, then I went.
The situation's been a bit up and down, so kind of got kicked.
Yeah, I went without a car because I couldn't get into the city, so that plan. Did you end up catching up with Buddy and stuff?
No, I was at a gig that night.
Yeah, that's right. You went and saw Chris Cheney, eh?
Yeah, got to hang out with him. It was great.
Nice. Well, look, it's been 20 minutes.
That's a moment for a living end fan from when I was a teenager to get to hang out with the great man himself.
Look, it's been 20 minutes, and we haven't fucking touched any games yet. No, look, as I said in the last episode,
we had a triangle.
I've barely touched any games this in the last bit of time. I just don't have the motivation to do so. I'm just not feeling it. But I did get some minor motivation. I sat down and I finished Horizon Forbidden West. I rolled credits on it. It turns out I completely lost motivation midway through the final mission. So when I booted it back up, I was like, boom! And then I was straight through to the end. And I was like, oh, well, there you go.
Goaty.
Yeah.
Current Goaty.
It's a very good game. It's, as I've said before in my previous impressions, it is batshit.
In terms of where that story goes.
I love it. I absolutely love it because I love the complete red herring, I think the correct term is, with the big band for the game. Where you think it, everything's, at least the marketing or like even the collector's edition, everything's named around like, this is the bad guy. Like, oh shit.
Regala and all that, yeah.
Totally not. Turns out you find Regala later and you just fucking stab her and it's very easy and uneventful, but that's because there's a whole other side thing going on. And God, what a game. What a game. Oh.
And you have a choice as to what you want to do with Regala.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I totally stabbed her. But it was so good. Like, it sets up for what the next one is going to be, which is awesome. I'm very excited to see whatever they do with that. I feel like it expanded in a lot of ways the world of Horizon. There are some things about it that I think are a little bit different from number one, and I'm not quite sure how I feel on it. Because number one was very much a story about you are the one person that can save the world.
Yep.
Where the second one is no one person can save the world. So it's very interesting to have that a kind of juxtaposition around this narrative with the idea. The second one is all about community and having those around you to support you to get where you need to get.
And you see Aloy wrestling with that too.
Yeah.
Because it was all about her and she was the only one before, and now all of a sudden there's it's being doled out left, right, and center.
Yeah, and then you saw like the what are they called? Focuses. Where like even then, because I did love that in her portrayal of her character, was like she's real standoffish to everyone, and everyone's like, why is she being such a bitch? I'm like, because she spent the entire first game being hated by everyone her existence infuriated people. Like she was isolated, communicated, kicked out, banished, like you name it. Everyone fucking shat on her. And the second she saves the world, everyone's like, oh, hey, Aloy the blessed, Aloy the strong.
Statue.
And then like, would you not be shitty to everyone if that was the circumstance you found yourself in? I know I would be.
Yeah, there'd be a little bit of fuck you guys. Like,
yeah, where the fuck were you when I needed it? Sort of thing. And like that comes through. But yeah, the game's great. It looks fantastic. Once they did that update, they're gonna get rid of that that shimmering sort of HDR problems. The game, I never had any problems with it after that. A lot of the initial visual critiques I had went away, which was great. I really like. I think Aaron's probably one of my biggest standouts of the companions. I've talked about him previously as well, mostly because
great character.
I really like him as a supporting character because of he's loyal, he's caring, he has this big he's
the big bustly man, but he's kind of soft.
Yeah, he has this big facade, right? He's this big facade that he's strong, and but like underneath, he's just this
teddy bear,
beautiful, soft person that fucking cares and just gives a shit about people. And I love that a lot. And Val was great as well, and I really enjoyed Ursa, the woman from the Quen. She was great as well. She had like this great fucking like energy to her because everything was awesome and exciting. Katalo though, I think Katalo is by far one of the if not one of the best characters in the game. I found him so fascinating.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan there.
But look, I highly recommend the game. It's a given. It's PlayStation. It's probably going to be pretty good. And it turns out it was also really, really good too. It's certainly my front runner for Game of the Year so far. Mostly because I've not really finished a whole lot and I'm not caring right now. But it's absolutely standout. Now, Pad, you haven't talked about Horizon Forbidden West on this show yet. What's your thoughts on it all?
I'd echo most of that. For me, it is still currently my Game of the Year at this point. I've played a shit ton up to this stage outside of Elden Ring. Fuck that shit.
Fuck that game.
I don't hate myself nearly enough to waste my time with that. So yeah, I mean, I really echo most of what you said there. Like the combat feels brilliant. The story, it pulls the wool over your eyes and then pump fakes you in the best sort of way. I can understand how some may not necessarily vibe with it because, like, yeah, okay, you're just ripping this out your ass. You can say, oh well, I won't spoil it, but like you can just pull this thread out of nowhere and go, well, we kept that from you, and it's fine. Like I can appreciate that, but I enjoyed the way it was delivered still, and even then how they set things up for the next game. So that all works a treat. Yeah, the combat's awesome. The cast of characters is awesome, and yeah, the transformation that Aloy has to go through as she adjusts to the fact that there are focuses being doled out like it's candy, and everyone has one now, and it really does change the dynamic for her. And seeing her adjust to that is really, really fascinating.
Yeah, but even like one of the subtle nuances, right? Like, it's because, everyone that has a focus, or at least as part of your camp, your base, they all, everything that they see is everything that her focus is recorded. So there's no need for exposition because they saw what you saw. So it's not like, oh, how did you find out? It's like, oh, I saw it because in your focus. But like, it also added this other sort of subtext to it, as in like, previously no one ever saw the world the way that Aloy saw it. Turns out they now see it exactly how she sees it. So from going from someone that felt she was misunderstood in the world to be able to be surrounded by people that literally know exactly what she's going through is a great little thing.
Well, one criticism, and it's something that lots and lots of people have echoed since the game came out, since the embargo dropped in the first place, that I guess hadn't bothered me as much initially, but with a bit of time removed has kind of sat less so with me than it did previously, is the fact that she really talks through every situation excessively.
Yeah, there's a lot of external monologue. But once again, if you had spent
some stuff in the process as a result, like, talking through how she's going to navigate this, like you've just walked into the room and she's already basically telling you the solution to the thing that you haven't even had the opportunity to hand the camera across and assess yet, which is a little like it takes away from some of the, you would never call it a puzzle, but some of those light puzzling elements. Like, okay, so how do I get from here to here? Yeah, she's already told me.
Yeah, some of that's a little on the nose, and that's not ideal. However, as someone that spent so long by herself, I imagine a big hunk of that time is spent talking to yourself.
Yeah, contextually it makes sense.
But yeah, look, they removed her picking up animation,
Yeah.
so everyone can calm down now, right? You know.
Oh. Just look out like when Horizon 3 comes along, everyone's going to be critiquing how she gets into a boat like Kratos because they're just going to steal that animation from Santa Monica.
Fuckers.
Or the puddles. They'll look at the puddles.
Oh, not puddles again. Now, Pad, you said you've been playing a ton of games. I don't have any other games to report right now.
Not a ton of games, but I've been spending a lot of time with games. So yeah, I mentioned Beat Saber before and just had a great time diving back into that. For some reason, I found myself playing Drunken Bar Fight on the VR as well.
Oh, how's that?
It's shit.
No.
Real shit. It's fun enough to walk into a bar and just start glassing people and then there's a giant chandelier thing above people. You just pick something up off the desk, throw it at the chandelier falls down on top of people. You turn God mode on and so you can't be touched, so you're just walking through, just swinging your arms, wailing on people. It's awesome. But as a game, it's shit ass. And one of the trophies is bugged, so I can't even get 100%. So fuck those guys.
Ew.
The one that I've spent a lot of time playing this week, and I've had like every opportunity I've been playing it either on the TV, and if I can't play on the TV because maybe my wife's watching TV, then it's remote play on the phone. Is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
Yeah.
Because I love Borderlands games, and this one just kind of slipped by initially because there was a few different embargoes that I was working at the time, and that wasn't one of them. So I just saved it till last, basically. But I played through the entire campaign. I've hit level 40. The DLC, the first piece of DLC came out this week. I finished the campaign the day that the DLC came out, so then jumped straight into the DLC. That was pretty underwhelming. The first, the Borderlands games previously, including 3, which is a lesser Borderlands game, certainly compared to some of the others anyway, are so renowned for their incredible DLC that they've done over the journey. It's kind of where Tiny Tina's Wonderlands even comes from in the first place. It's a spin-off to Assault on Dragon Keep, which was DLC from Borderlands 2, which they then broke out separately as like a promo thing leading up to this. That was a whole thing. But this DLC lasts about 40 minutes long, and it's basically just a series of 5 encounters that ends with a boss. Like, it's a few waves and a boss, and that's about it, really. It's pretty disappointing in that sense. So I'm hoping that, what's typically happened with Borderlands DLC is that there's actually been a decent gap between the initial launch and then the first piece of DLC, but like a reasonable amount of time. Whereas this has come out in the space of a month. So I'm wondering if they were trying to get something out there initially for people, but the bigger ones that are to come, that's my hope.
Yeah, I imagine this might just be a proof of concept in terms of, look, we are supporting it. There is more things. Look, because one of the biggest problems I think most games find when they have like season passes, etc., is that they go, oh, there's something coming, and it comes like 8 months later.
Yeah, and it might be a way to ensure people don't trade in their physical copies and all that sort of thing as well. So.
Well, it's the same. If we look at like there has been a couple of games that release like smaller updates and then a big DLC a bit later on. So
a lot of those service games do that. And Borderlands is obviously not that far off the service game. Like it's not quite to that extent, but it's only half a step away. So I can kind of see why they've gone down that path, but I hope now that with that done and people's appetite wet, if you were someone who actually played at launch and you've stuck it out, I hope that whenever the next one comes along, let's suppose it's 3+ months away, when that does come along, I hope it is a proper meaty Borderlands DLC style expansion. So, and then of course the news dropped that Tales from the Borderlands season 2 is coming this week, and I just
calm down, man. You're spoiling all the news.
Is that in there? Oh well, sorry, but the desk.
It's in the QUICKBITS, so it's fine.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, it's all good.
The desk elevated a little bit when that news dropped. So
fantastic. Are there any other games you spent some time with on your PlayStation?
Well, with the DLC finished yesterday, I then jumped into Lego Star Wars.
I need to go back to
that yesterday. I'm still. The game gives you the opportunity to start at either episode 1, 4, or 7. I've been hearing a whole bunch of people that are kind of, I'll play them in the order that they were released. I'm like, I can respect that. 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3, and then 7, 8, 9. But I'm a maths guy. I can't be bouncing around through numbers like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm still in episode 1 at the moment. I do have it's a big ask. From what I've seen online. It looks like it might be 80 hours to get the plat, so I don't know if I'll ever actually do it. But I'm playing currently as if I will do that in the end. So I'm taking my time. Like, I'm just smashing up everything so I can get as many studs as early as possible so that I can get those multipliers going, which will then help maybe shave a few hours off later on. But I'm enjoying going through the worlds. The Lego Star Wars games have always been a lot of good fun. Oh, sorry, the Lego games full stop have been a lot of fun over the years. So I am enjoying it here so far, but it's pretty early days.
Not too bad. Yeah, I'm in the similar boat. I haven't gone back, as I said. But the problem that I have is that I feel I have to punch everything. Like, I can't just leave a box unpunched. Which, you know, if I'm already not feeling it, and then I feel I can't leave this area until I've grabbed all the studs, it's bad. It's bad.
See, the problem, I guess the thing about that is that you can't get them all. Like, you can't get all the bricks. You have to, like, I'm trying to make it rain when it comes to studs and just smash up everything I can. And there's lots of little mini hubs along the way, so you can just kind of wander off the path and go and smash some shit. I'm not trying to break up all of them, because obviously all these things just replenish anyway. They're not permanent things that I'm breaking up. But I'm just making sure that I do enough so that I hit, what is it I need? I think I need 2 million studs to buy the 4 times multiplier. And if I can do that, then I'm off to the races at that point. I'm about a quarter of the way there, and I'm still probably only halfway through episode 1. So I'll do it pretty early on, which will then help bankroll everything later on. But yeah, the bricks themselves, like the Kyber bricks, I think they're calling them in this one, in these ones.
So same, Kyber, based on the Kyber crystals.
Yeah, the Kyber crystals, yeah. You can't get them all in a single playthrough anyway. You've got to be able to go back with free play mode enabled, and that requires certain characters of certain types to be able to engage with the certain parts of the environments. So I never worry too much about that. It's more just, let's get as many studs as I can so that I can start unlocking all this other stuff. It's some of that grind later on that I'm trying to reduce. But I know they'll still have to come back for all the Kyber bricks. So we'll see how we go. There's 1,100 of these fuckers.
Jesus Christ. So, like, when do they, like, when they look at these, right? And, like, do they realize that, like, that's just too many? Like,
they look at what Ubisoft is doing with Assassin's Creed and they go, that shit keeps selling, so why don't we do that? It's also probably why the game took so long to come out.
Yeah, it's gross. It's absolutely disgusting. I hate it.
Don't get me wrong. I love Ubisoft. I love Assassin's Creed and a lot of the other Ubisoft formula sort of games, but I didn't want it in Lego.
Yeah,
like, up to a point. Like, that's fine up to a point, because they are usually pretty inventive and clever with how they try and conceal some of these things. But now, because there's so many, it's, oh, look, there's one randomly around this corner here. I'm like, oh, well, that's not inventive. You're just shoving shit in corners here because you've got a big open world, like, kind of open world style thing that you've created, and you're looking to fill it out. So it's one thing to justify the other, which is just neither really justify each other as a result. Like, it's a weird sort of loop that they're in that doesn't actually work.
No. Oh.
But I'm enjoying the core game itself. I am still enjoying it.
Yeah, so. It's at its core, it's still Lego. It's just now third person over the shoulder action adventure compared to that 2.5D sort of setup. So sweet, means more Star Wars world to explore. And if this is the future of what the Lego game's going to do, thumbs up all around. I think I think people are pretty stoked on it. But before we get into the main section of the show, Padge, we talk about this week's PlayStation news. We got to talk about Manscaped. So for those that don't know, this show is proudly sponsored by the team over at Manscaped. Manscaped, the #1 leading brand in men's grooming. That is your front area, Padge. In case you weren't sure, it's keeping your shit nice and tidy. But it's not exclusively your dick area. You can use the lovely Lawnmower 4.0, which, as it is designed for, it is a body hair trimmer, which means you can trim your chest hair, you can trim your snail trail, you can trim your front area, your under area, your back area. Wherever there's hair, the lawnmower. You got to get that gooch. And what's really handy about the Lawnmower 4.0, apart from its really high RPM motor, it also has a little torch on there. Because when you're trying to look in those crevices, I presume it's going to get dark in there. You got to go a little bit of hunting. That torch does absolutely wonders. But I took some advice from Max, Pat. I have, as you can see, I have tried to do a beard again. I say try.
You using it to do a bit of facial grooming as well?
I am. So not after I've used it on my front area, of course. Like there's a bit of washing and cleaning of the device beforehand.
I was about to judge you.
But because the problem with my beard is A, it's shit, and 2, it grows in inconsistently, right?
So, directions?
No, it's just at different times. Like some areas grow faster than others, whichever. Right? So, and previously I've only ever done like razor shaves. So when my beard would grow in and it would look like shit and would annoy me, I'd end up just razoring it off because it would shit me off. But now using the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0, I can trim it down, which allows those areas that are not growing to fill in, and at that space that it needs, and then I can have an overall shitty beard instead of just a patchy shitty beard, and it's all important. So those little details that help. So I've been using it to trim up my hair. So every day I just kind of go in and give it a bit of a once over, just keep it all like at reasonable lengths, and it does a damn good job. And to make things even better is because, as I've talked about in the last couple of weeks as well, I did pick up the formulations. So Manscaped, rather than just treating your body hair, they're happy to treat your body, which is use of their shampoos, their body wash, their moisturizer, etc. All comes in this lovely pack. I have just ordered another one for myself because I love it. It smells good, feels good, it's good shit. Big fan of that. Now, yes, the show is supported by Manscaped. Would I buy these products anyway? Now that I've used them, very much so. Initially, the barrier of entry was a bit difficult before. Yep. The barrier of entry was difficult because I'm like, do I have the $1 dues to buy a body hair trimmer? At the time, sure didn't. Manscaped came to the table. We're like, well, I think you should try it anyway. You don't seem to stop talking about your dick. Try this. And now that I've got one, holy shit, would I buy one in a heartbeat? Just because it does things. It's good stuff. Very, very good stuff. But if you want to give it a burl as well, you can. So you head over to au.manscaped.com where you use the promo code FTP on any purchase, whether that be the ultimate box, which comes with the Lawnmower 4.0, the ball toner, the crop cleanser, a pair of underpants, a shirt, a little toiletry bag, awesome bunch of little goodies, or the formulations bundle, or maybe like the plow, the face razor, the foot duster. If you've got them stanky feet, you can get it in there. There's like a bunch of different things. If you use the promo code FTP, as in for the players, you get yourself 20% off as well as free worldwide shipping. So once again, big thank you to the team over at Manscaped for helping support this show. That's enough of that, Padge. That's enough shilling. Let's get to the section we call Inform the Players. We tell you about what happened this week in PlayStation. Now, admittedly, with us being off last week, this is kind of 2 weeks worth of news. As we're going to bit. We just kind of pulled out the stuff that is most pressing. Now, one of the things that was most pressing over the last couple of weeks, Max, is this conversation around PlayStation not being done in the acquisition market. After we've seen Microsoft buy this and that, they're like, what can they do next? And one of those big rumors after Jim Ryan came out and went, did I say Max? Yeah. Fucking habit. In my head, I was like, make sure to say Paul, make sure to say Paul, make sure to say Paul. Didn't.
I see how it is.
Sorry, it's all a big hunk of the show, Paul, is routine. It's all it is. Yeah. It's just it's going through the motions. And
it's how I close. Like I have this issue when I close every patched episode because I recite my lines as if it's a player who plays. Like
you know how hard when we started the show, you know how hard it was me to try to remember what the fuck Max says in the opening spiel, because
you never have to worry about it.
No, I just don't think about it. I ignore it. I just don't. My brain gets to check out for a second, and then I go, "Oh, my turn now." But yes, Padge. One of the things they talk about, Jim Ryan, old Jimbo, was like, "Hey, we ain't done." So of course, rumors have been flying around because there's only so many studios left, so many publishers left. Like, what are they gonna do? One of those ones that came up in that discussion was Kojima Productions. So Hideo Kojima's independent studio, which developed Death Stranding, a PlayStation console exclusive on the PS4, as well as the old director's cut on the PS5, well, maybe this is the one. Because up on the PlayStation website, there was a PlayStation Studios banner. We've all seen it. It's, the all directional lines, and it shows off one of the key titles from each one of the studios. On the far left of this picture, there was Concrete Genie, made by Pixel Opus. That has since been taken away and replaced with Death Stranding. And Death Stranding Director's Cut, to be specific. So, that's led people to think about a different couple of things. Patch, like, oh, maybe this is hinting. But Kojima himself did come out. He felt the need to comment on the rumors, and on Twitter, the Metal Gear Solid and Death Stranding creator put an end to the speculative chatter with a quote, "I'm sorry for the misunderstanding, but Kojima Productions has been and will continue to be an independent studio." This is funny though, because Kojima actually fueled the speculation himself before even issuing the statement, as he simply posted that new banner on Twitter with Sam Bridges, old fucking dude from who's Norman Reedus. This was done on his Japanese, this was done on his Japanese account, and of course the internet ran with it. Padge, with Kojima saying, "We are independent, we'll continue to be independent." Very similar words uttered by the likes of Housemarque.
Yeah.
Do you believe that Kojima Productions is the next pickup for PlayStation first party studios?
I don't know if they're necessarily the next pickup, but I don't know. There's all sorts of the one voice that is in my head that is shouting, "No, it's not them," or at least he's not next, is bloody Jeff Grubb, because he's the one that was driving the report about the signal of intent, that thing of intent between Xbox and Kojima Productions from late last year, if I recall. And he's been, because obviously when this started to pop off, naturally people were hitting him up for his thoughts. And he said, as of even a few weeks ago, that intention thing was still gold. Like, that was still meant to be a thing that exists between the two parties. That doesn't preclude anything. Again, we've seen what obviously happened with Bethesda, for example, when they got picked up, but a deal was already in place, so they rode that out and then jumped across. So it doesn't rule it out in that sense. But the other thing that Jeff Grubb's been saying is that, and a lot of news fuss was kicked up when Greg Miller recently said, "Oh, we're delaying PSL Love You because one of three things, or there's three different things he'd heard, and one of those was about an acquisition." Both Greg and Jeff have spoken about this since that week, and the fact that an acquisition didn't actually play out. And while they didn't actually say, "Hey, it's this company or this developer or publisher or whatever," they both said wasn't Kojima Productions that we'd heard, and Jeff has specifically said it's meant to be much bigger than a Kojima Productions. Now that doesn't leave a lot of scope. Like when you think about these, I guess there's two different kind of classes or kind of pools that teams have been getting picked out of when it comes to these acquisitions so far. There's your developer pool, and there's your publisher pool, which obviously comes with a lot of developers, but you've got your freelance, your independent developers, and then your those that are already associated with the publisher. In the development scene, I mean, we had a chat going between the both of us, Max and Joel, and we could only think of two or three other teams that are even, and I'm not even going to say they're necessarily bigger than Kojima Productions, but they're in that same sort of ballpark.
Yeah, like if we're going to use the term bigger, it shuts that pool pretty quickly. Yeah.
So that instantly makes me think, well, they must be hearing publisher. Now, I've already thrown out my thoughts previously that I think, setting aside that I don't really want to see any more publishers get picked up, I think that WB would be a very smart acquisition for them if they're going to go down that path, because of all the licenses that gives them access to, on top of what they've already got with Star Wars and a whole bunch of Marvel stuff that they're doing. I think that would be like they're trying to pull people in based on these are the brands that you know and love. And so that would be a very sensible way to go if you can suddenly add Batman and Wonder Woman and all those to the pool alongside Spider-Man, Harry Potter. I mean, obviously Harry Potter's not exclusive, but there's kind of the association that's already built there. Spider-Man, Wolverine. on top of all the established first parties that they've got. And, Uncharted, they've now turned into a film franchise. Last of Us is coming to TV. God of War is huge and will probably make the jump at some point as well. The much anticipated TV adaptation of Twisted Metal. Pregnant pause. And various other IP that they plan to, like, they're building so many of their IP up into something that exists in its own vertical. Like, obviously it's under the PlayStation umbrella, but it's kind of in its own vertical as well. And those sort of IP would be fantastic for them as well. There's been more speculation about Ubisoft popping up in the last couple of days as well. You could see that as being a possibility too. But if we're just thinking developers, I don't think you necessarily get anyone bigger than Kojima Productions. You get others that might be on a similar level.
Yeah, the only ones that are, I guess, the big consensus would be bigger would be the likes of From Software or CD Projekt Red, in terms of, because I think when you say bigger, I don't think bigger and Remedy, but I think bigger in terms of like not just like size, but also reputation and renowned. And as outside of Kojima, there's very few people that are bigger in terms of renown or even potential, right?
Well, even like from renowned, like those three that we mentioned, I'd argue that FromSoft is then the only one that you could argue is bigger than Kojima.
Absolutely correct. Yeah, From Software has the legacy. They've got the history with PlayStation. PlayStation should have picked them up years ago, but didn't. Like, the only downside is I don't think they could afford From Software. Like, From Software, like, in terms of where it stands right now, they have everything up their sleeve. Like, they are on nothing but win right now. Like, it's not as if it's like when Activision got picked up because they were slipping. Like, there was talks, the talks went up today about Ubisoft potentially looking to get a pickup. But these are all on the back of, things that are damaging to the brand, where it's reducing its value. Therefore, that's a much cheaper acquisition. But From Software is as high as it's ever been right now. Like, there is no way that it would be a small chunk of change. Where, like, Kojima really only has one game under his belt, and that's Death Stranding. Now, granted, with that comes potential and legacy and etc. But even Death Stranding, as good as it did, I remember there being reports around it not releasing or selling as many as they wanted. Because I think they were kind of hoping it was going to release, sell through better based on kind of Kojima alone. And then with the really mixed reviews, some were really high, some were really low. I distinctly remember there being a thing about Death Stranding not hitting what they wanted it to.
Yeah, it did shoot below in that sense.
Yeah, so like, would they then want to double down on Kojima? Because they've done it in the past. Like, they went out of their way to show that their dedication to him.
His name still puts asses on seats. And that's where I think, wading into the FromSoft thing, I don't think they would cost as much as you'd necessarily think at first. And that's because the bulk of the IP, they don't own. Bandai owns it. And the thing about FromSoft is that people are coming in, and the real proof in the pudding is what's happened with Elden Ring, because it is the best-selling game of anything they've made already, which is insane. But it's the best-selling game of any game that they've made, and that is despite it being a new IP. People are coming in the door because it's a FromSoft game, so we know what to expect from them, and it's going to be excellent.
That's what I'm saying.
As much as we throw our shade. So what I would, like, if you're PlayStation, you go, okay, so what they've proven with Elden Ring is that it doesn't need to be Dark Souls 4 to sell millions. Mm-hmm. It needs to be a FromSoft game to sell millions. So, sure, Bandai, you keep the IP, whatever. Maybe they try and buy some of the IP off them at some point. Maybe they don't.
Well, but, that would come down to, like, is
that brings their value down, because you're not buying the IP, you're just buying the studio. Well, the studio people come for. So,
but hang on, does Bandai just have publishing rights?
No, I did it. I was doing a very quick Google there while we were talking, just to make sure that I wasn't talking at my ass.
Or is it in the same way that, like, PlayStation have Demon Souls?
Yeah, it's in that same way.
Interesting, because, like, that's a bold strategy for. Well, have a quick Google, because I think that's that
was what I was reading.
Yeah, because that changes everything. Because also, why the fuck would From Software make that deal now, knowing full well, like, what happened with Demon Souls? Like, why would they make that deal now?
Yeah, Dark Souls is owned by Bandai.
Dark Souls?
Sekiro is Activision.
Like publishing rights or like owned?
The IP is owned.
So From Software, very similar to Telltale, don't own anything.
In the same way that Insomniac was essentially nothing, because Sony owned Ratchet.
That kind of changes my entire look at this.
No, so that's why I think it's actually a very smart. Like if you're PlayStation, again, I'd very much like to see this sort of thing done. And Rocket makes a good point. There's a little bit that probably ties to George Railroad Martin, but no, I don't think a huge amount. Because people come for the FromSoft game in the first place.
But it was but for those, it was a good selling point for those that may not know the game.
It's a cool marketing thing to add a bit of gravitas to the whole thing. But yeah, if you're PlayStation, you pay whatever, like you're probably gonna have to pay an inflated price because they are obviously one of the hottest team in the world at the moment. But you pay whatever price because you're not going to have to pay for the IP unless you want to talk to Bandai and buy those as well. But that's a separate transaction. But you know that when you bring them in house, you probably get like, I think the number I heard most recently, I think for Elden Ring was 12 or 14 million.
Smart, yeah.
You get all 12 to 14 million people. If they're on Xbox, they'll buy a PlayStation. If they were playing it on PC, they'll buy a PlayStation. Especially, we know PlayStation's not going to launch the game day and date on PC. You get all of those people buying PlayStations straight away because that's what the FromSoft community is now. They are so insane about it. And I don't mean insane in a derogatory sense.
I do.
But they are so, well, I do a lot of the time, but I'm not in this particular context. They are just so mad about FromSoft. Anything they do, they will just come for whatever game they make and they'll buy it wherever they need to buy it. So if you lock them down as an exclusive PlayStation team and the game, like it'll come to PC at some point, but maybe it's 12 months. Well, they're not going to wait 12 months.
Yeah, not happening.
They're going to want to play it day one, so they'll buy a PlayStation 5. There you go.
Yeah.
So you're selling consoles, you're selling ridiculous numbers of games. You earn there's a good chance you earn all the money back that you spent on them with the release of their very first game, whatever that ends up being, Bloodborne 2 or something else.
Oh man, if From Software is a pick up and they announce a Bloodborne 2, like that seals the deal right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just
look. If it's one of those things, if it's bigger than Kojima, which is the theory here, if it's bigger than Kojima, then like doesn't leave a whole lot, as you said. But
it's either a FromSoft or a publisher, really.
Yeah, and even then, like, what publishers would that be? Like, because Konami, as an example, yes, has lots of IP behind it, but like, are they bigger than Kojima? Most people went to Konami in terms of its big heyday, like Metal Gear, etc., because of Kojima. I
mean, everyone like this comment's obviously been thrown around by a lot of people already, but you don't buy Konami. You buy the licenses, or you buy the IP, or you license the IP.
I understand that too.
If you buy Konami, you get all the bullshit that comes along with it: the pachinko machines, all their health,
or their game division.
Konami's
game division, most specifically. Yeah. Like I said, I'm only I'm kind of just having fun with the whole discussion around it. Like I don't see that happening. I think buying the rights to certain brands would be a smarter call. Like really, if you buy Kojima, then you go buy fucking Silent Hill, you go buy Metal Gear. Like that's what you should do.
Yeah.
But like whether they'll do that, who knows? But in terms of Remedy as well, I don't think Remedy's in that market at the moment because they've got their hands in like so many different deals. It's a bit difficult. Like maybe a while ago, like when Control dropped, possibly that would have been a better call.
But since then, they've announced 6 different business deals
Correct.
And 15 different games, so you can't really.
Yeah, and then if Sony was to pick them up now, they would never see any. They wouldn't really see a lot of back end for like a very, very long time. Oh my god, we've got lots of people in the chat that we haven't seen in a very long time.
Talking about FromSoft.
We've got Buddy Watson in here. We've got Dylan from the Explosion Network. We've got Shane's coming. Jono at Jono himself comes in as well. There's a bunch of in. Let's have a look. Buddy's just excited to see. Buddy's just excited to see you. Dylan, I turned this on and heard you'll buy a PS5. Where? Very good point. That's a bit tough. More free. Slowly, more and more EB are like, hey, put in your request, and suddenly
if you want, get some donuts, you might win one. I won quote unquote a cine.
I won a cinnamon donut. That's fucking
times 2
ball bags. Shane goes, could it be something like Riot Games, deeper investment in multiplayer and PC? Potentially. We're very clearly seeing PlayStation tackle acquisitions differently with the likes of Nixus and
Riot
like
is
Viceport,
owned
etc.
by Tencent completely.
Yeah, actually, yeah, no, it totally is. Yeah.
So, and Sony seems to be, and I'm thrilled about it considering all the talk about Tencent. Sony seems to want nothing to do with Tencent. So, I'm all in on them not going anywhere near Riot.
Yeah.
As harsh as that sounds, like
So
they're kind of a tainted brand.
Viva la Dill. Dylan jumps in and goes, I can't eat the donuts! Exclamation mark. Everything PS makes in Australia for promotions have milk in them. These lactose inconsiderate fuckers. I'm lactose intolerant as hell, and I ate those donuts. I don't give a shit.
Just punch them down, smash some porcelain for a bit, and then
get some of those lactase pills. Those lactase pills saved my life. But of course, just tolerate it, bro, says Max in the chat. Just stop being so inconsiderate.
Good to see you here, Max.
Good to see you, Max. But Jono himself jumps in and goes, From Software and Remedy would be way more affordable than the next level developers / publishers. So around 300 employees compared to thousands of Square Enix, Capcom, Konami, etc. And use that, because Square Enix is the one that comes up a lot. Now, yeah, they've had a little bit of a shit run lately, but they still have such a legacy that it's near impossible for them to be picked up, I think, for a reasonable price. Capcom's on a complete upswing right now. They are worth probably more than they had in a very long time, so I don't see them getting picked up. It's yeah.
Well, but again, that is one of the big, if we kind of focus on the From Software versus any of those publishers comparison, From Software, you're not getting any IP with them. You're getting the talent, which is huge, and that again, I think that makes such a big deal if you're PlayStation, because you know that those 12 to 14 million who bought Elden Ring will just come and buy your PlayStation regardless.
Yeah.
If they don't own a PlayStation, if they're on Xbox or they're PC, and they're told that you're not going to get on Xbox and PC, you're going to have to wait 12 months, then every single one of them buys a PS5 and that's money. When it comes to someone like a Square Enix, you actually, yes, you're getting all the thousands of developers, but you are also getting the IP as well.
Yeah.
You're getting both sides of the equation there as opposed to just one. So that's kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, and especially on the back of this information, as you confirmed that, the IP that From Software have worked on aren't owned by them. They're owned by each individual publisher, which is very intriguing. Very intriguing. It does change my look at it completely, if I'm being absolutely honest. All right. What's the next bit of news, Paige?
The
chat's going off. They're talking about fucking Devolver and Rocksteady and Bandai Namco being valued at $7 billion. And Buddy and Dylan seem to be having this deal between them.
There we go. Max is fine. Max is on my level. Warner is the team. If they're going to buy a publisher, Warner Brothers is the team. It's the IP. You get the IP. That's what's huge for them.
Yeah, and they get NetherRealm, so they can completely choke out the fighting market.
Yeah. Sorry, they get the fighting market too done. But yeah. So we're moving on to the next news story. So PlayStation Plus has a date with the new service set to launch on the 23rd of May in Asia. Japan is June 1st. America is June 13. And Europe, where we'll land, most likely, presumably, because nothing is actually properly detailed, is June 22nd. The platform holder is beginning to send emails to some of its customers overseas. Filipino website One More Game shared said correspondence, which does include some new information. Starters, as expected, if you're already an existing PlayStation Plus subscriber, you don't need to do anything. You'll automatically transition to PlayStation Plus Essential, which is the base tier. The organization describes it, and your stacked subscription period will persist unchanged. You'll continue to enjoy the same benefits, quote unquote, and there'll be no change to price or payment dates. Things will simply continue as normal. However, if you will have the option to upgrade to PlayStation Plus Extra or Premium or Deluxe, as it will be known out here. And to do so, you'll need to pay the difference between your current plan and your new plan, adjusted for the remaining time of your subscription, the email explains. In other words, if you have 6 months PlayStation Plus service left, then you'll be able to upgrade to one of the higher tiers for the remainder of your plan by paying the difference. And it's unclear how this will work for those with stacked year subscriptions, because as we've heard in the US a bit lately, and anywhere that PlayStation Now already exists, people have just been buying PlayStation Now at obscenely low prices because retailers were trying to offload all that stuff a while ago. They're buying at really, really low prices because apparently that's going to transition across to the premium tier. And so the theory is that they're going to have 3, 4, 5+ years of PlayStation Plus Premium or Deluxe.
But before we jump into that, because one of the big things about PlayStation Plus, as I've affectionately named it, and everyone else has, because I'm not, I'm sure I stole that from somewhere. Sony has revealed that PlayStation, not right now. All right, it's coming. So it turns out it's bringing its cloud streaming service to additional regions across Europe ahead of the announcement of the starting date. The following regions have been added to the list. This includes Bulgaria, Croatia, the Czech Republic, Greece, Hungary, Malta, Poland, the Republic of Cyprus, Romania, Slovakia, and Slovenia. But still nothing for Australia. Maybe we'll hear something closer to June. Now, Padge, now that we're hearing that specific areas of Europe and Asia are getting hands-on with PS Plus or PlayStation not right now, but if I hear that the Republic of Cyprus has better internet on average compared to Australia so they can support streaming services, the fuck? And I'm especially
Cyprus and not Malta, because everyone's been hanging on Malta. Like, why are they so? Why is that so shocking? That
especially on the back of this ongoing reporting that takes place over at Explosion Network. That is Platinum Explosion. Those one of the other top 3 PlayStation podcasts made in this country. They have been providing some on.
3?
I think there's only 3.
Didn't I burn that third one to the ground?
No, I'm sure there's a third one there somewhere. We'll leave it out there. Maybe there's a third. But so the point I'm making here is they have been providing some incredible reporting, and have for a long time, about this little setup within Adelaide. Dylan himself played a amount of subscription for a South Australian newspaper just to get this report, and we've talked about it a couple of times on this show, citing them, of course, every time, is that they're essentially building something out of that area. Like, it's not a game studio, it's all tech based, and the only thing we can suspect is that they're trying to build some sort of infrastructure to allow and support PlayStation Now. But doesn't matter, because the Republic of Cyprus have it and we don't.
And just to be clear what I said before, I'm not picking on Cyprus. I'm just glad that it's not Malta that's being wailed on. Like, everyone else seems to be mortified that Malta is the country. I clearly haven't been paying enough attention to Malta's internet status, but everyone seemed to be mortified that Malta was getting it and we weren't. So I'm glad to hear some other countries getting kicked in the teeth now.
It's just like, I don't know. Look, I apologize to the individuals of Cyprus, but when something's called the Republic of, I doubt that it's a very big place. Like Romania, like is in all these sweet fucking castles that Dracula lives in. Obviously has better internet.
We know that the infrastructure's there. Like, forget what PlayStation has to do on there. We know the infrastructure's there. I've spoken about how I was streaming in, and my internet, like as far as NBN goes, my NBN's pretty basic. Like it's fiber to the node, not to the premises. It's pretty shitty one at that. And yet, when the preview opportunity came along late last year or in January it was late last year to try out Rainbow Six Extraction, they beamed it to me. I didn't have a hitch the entire day. It was multiplayer, so obviously that's instantly more demanding than streaming a single player experience to me. There was no hiccups whatsoever, so we can do it. Obviously, there's still great chunks of Australia that won't, and that's unfortunate for them. But you chose to live out in the sticks. It's your fault.
Yeah, look, it's tough. Look, it's good that it's dated. It's a couple of months away. It's not too bad, which is all right. I don't know. I'm still excited for it, mostly because I think it'll be interesting to see what they do. But one of the biggest things that is still yet to really be touched upon with PlayStation Plus, or PlayStation Double Good, as I heard it in the chat, as I saw in the chat, is we still don't know what these backwards compatible games are.
But we've got our first little tease and hint, right?
That's true, we do.
Many Syphon Filter games have been rated for release in Korea, likely in preparation for the launch of PlayStation Plus Premium in June. Reported by Gamatsu, PS1 titles Syphon Filter, Syphon Filter 2, as well as PSP releases Syphon Filter Dark Mirror and Syphon Filter Logan's Shadow have all received age ratings in the Korean region. They are for versions to be made available on PS5 and PS4, heavily suggesting that this is tied to the upcoming relaunch of PlayStation Plus. Missing from that is the missing Syphon Filter, I should say, from PS1 and PS2 Syphon Filter, the Omega strain.
And so it's missing 3 and Syphon Filter the Omega strain. Yeah, don't know why.
So there's some missing ones there. I mean, that could just be how they're being churned out. Like those ones are ready, so off to Korea for rating they go versus the other two that are still in gestation potentially. There could be any number of reasons for that. It may or may not be associated with PlayStation Plus, but it does seem fairly likely, I would say.
Yeah, Syphon Filter's a weird one, especially on the back of like Bend wanting to do something within Syphon Filter, or at least finding ways to connect Days Gone to Syphon Filter. To then have these come out is like, oh, that's an interesting decision. Like, so I don't see it being that them wanting to, make them popular and have them be visible in the public eye again. Off the back of an upcoming announcement for a new Syphon Filter. So it's really, to me, it's only can be a connector, and even then, it's playable on this motherfucker. It's playable on the PlayStation Classic, and the one thing is that I grew up, I played Syphon Filter like crazy. I fucking love Syphon Filter, but replaying it on this is not the game that I remember. It was not as good as I remember it at all.
It's just because the PlayStation 1 Classic is not as good as it should be.
That's very, very true as well. So that's my point. So like, either this is a connection to something that Bend is doing, which I think is incredibly unlikely.
I love that Dylan in the chat. Days Gone connects to Syphon Filter. There's an audio recording, which is all true. Like that is very true. But I love like that. That might be just the way that you're just trying to throw a bone to the angry Days Gone fans out there. Well, it's Days Gone's connected to Syphon Filter. Well, that's the old Syphon Filter game. So here's your like prequels to Days Gone.
Well, that's the point that I was making, right? Is like, we know that there was like, I think it was Jeff Ross. Yeah, Jeff Ross. I keep wanting to say Jim Ross, but he's a wrestling commentator. So I know Jeff Ross did that interview with Jaffe and Colin Moriarty, and they talked a lot about there was original time that they were asked to redo Syphon Filter in some capacity, right? And then they decided to connect it through to Days Gone, but then they weren't allowed to expand on Days Gone, so they never really got to go down that path or continue Syphon Filter another way. So like, this is therefore I don't see this being an announcement for a new Syphon Filter. I can only see it be a connecting to what is currently available, whether that be PS Plus, PS Double Good. John himself has confirmed that they are an angry Days Gone fan. Which me too. I want Days Gone too, damn it. I want it. Yeah,
I've just proposed to Jono in the chat that maybe it's time we started another petition for it, just to get angry and have it fail.
Just for funsies. Now Shane in the chat says music licensing for Syphon Filter 3 and Omega Strain. I don't remember there being licensed music in there. From memory.
I reckon it could just be one of those like these things are just gradually making their way through the system, and that's just the sequence that they came out in. Through the Korean ratings board, as opposed to the like, here's the game, like they've just like, here's all of them, they're all ready to go, but they're just gradually trickling.
Yeah, but like not even. But in terms of a drip feed though, like the only thing could be a point of difference was Omega Strain didn't have Gabe Logan as the main character, but 3 did. Now 3 wasn't as critically as well received as 2. Remember, 1 did well, 2 did better, 3 didn't do so well. There's a bit of love for the PSP one from memory.
But the thing is, I don't think the acclaim side of it doesn't really matter. I think in this sense, like, you're trading in nostalgia. So if you're gonna, like, you can say every Syphon Filter game is here, like that's more of a pop than all of them except that shit one. Like no one really cares about that side of things. At this point.
Yeah, that's true.
Nearly 30 years on.
I know. I feel like we're talking about a lot about Syphon Filter for a long time. So let's move it on, Max. I called you Max again. Let's move it on, Paul. Fuck. Look, I've been doing this for fucking 5 years.
We know Max is loitering in the chat. Just jump in, mate.
All right, Max. Max in the chat, that is. We're changing the news stories. God of when? God of War Ragnarok is still, quote, coming this year, according to animation director Bruno Velasquez. Cain Velasquez. He's a fighter. In a response to fans on Twitter, the comment comes after Cory Barlog issued an update the other day to say the game is not ready to be shown just yet. This raised concerns for some PS5 and PS4 players that the sequel will not be ready to release in 2022. While Biolog explained that Santa Monica Studio isn't ready to show God of War Ragnarok, as we mentioned, but it will be soon. It'll be shown when it's ready. Essentially, what he's saying. They said, "Quote: I guarantee you, the very second that we have something that we're ready to share, we're going to share it with you." So, with Velasquez's comment into account, it looks like the next time we see God of War Ragnarok, it may be closer than we think. Do you still think it's coming this year?
Max, I know that there's obviously very important reasons to why you're not on the show, but setting those aside for a second, this is why you're not on the show. This bullshit in the chat here saying, yeah, that ain't coming. You are wrong, sir. God of War Ragnarok is coming this year.
Look, I'm sorry. God of War must come out this year. Because I cannot be double fucked.
With the shadow drop.
It cannot be double fucked in my draft this year.
It's coming out this year. No, I mean, people have heard me a little bit already. Like I've been pretty firm for a while that the game's going to come out this year. This news doesn't change my opinion one way or the other. I think it's just going to be a pretty short turnaround between, as you've kind of indicated there, as you were reading everything out for the news. I think it's going to be a fairly short turnaround between when they showcase the game next and then the launch. Like it'll be a big, whether it's a state of play that's dedicated to it or something even, a part of something bigger. Whatever, I don't know, but it'll be a big blowout. Here's the date. It's 3 months from now. Start slapping your pre-orders down, and it'll just be a pretty relentless sort of thing. I feel like we're potentially looking at a Fallout 4 sort of turnaround here. Now, obviously, Fallout 4 was announced and then launched a few months later, but this is not going to be that far off it because they've been silent for a while now. See, I still love that because just completely to talk about Fallout for a second. I totally forgot about all those rumors before it got announced that it was a thing, and those rumors were all accurate. It's like all I remember is about Fallout 4 going from nothing to being announced releasing in 3 months. I completely forget about all that pre-stuff. The chat is killing it.
They're on fire today.
A great game can be a good game, but a game can't be a game unless it's delayed. Miyamoto.
It's very, very accurate. But like, this is the thing. See, like I'm with you. The game is coming this year. I see it around October. I see it's the big swinger for the end of the year. That's what I see.
I think it's one of two big swingers for the end of the year, and it's not something that's referenced in the news at all. But the continued reporting about The Last of Us. There was a report this week about The Last of Us and the remake and all those sorts of things that, and again, obviously with the TV show coming out early next year, I'm still firmly of the mind that The Last of Us remake is coming towards the back end of this year as well, and that's one that they don't need to announce from a long way out. Obviously, it's already leaked, so it kind of makes that whole point redundant anyway, because people are like, yeah, I know.
But I would see that as
just references as well. You're going to get Factions and the remake together, and that'll be out at the end of this year, and God of War will be in there with it.
See, I would call that as more of a supporting release, in the same way like you've got your A release and your B release, right? The Last of Us remake is a B release, really.
Well, it's going to play second fiddle, but it may sell more. Even sell more.
Like, they're both A games, don't get me wrong, but if you're banking on something for the holidays, you're banking on a brand, you're banking on God of War. And then to help support that, you have The Last of Us remake. That's how I would do it. Not that I have any fucking say or any good business skills, but
if The Last of Us is playing second fiddle to something in any year, even if it's just a remake of the first, then that's awesome. Shane's asked, when's the show coming? It's meant to be early next year. Yeah. Early, apparently.
So it would either be like either God of War comes early and then like maybe they drop like, in November. So maybe like say August or September for God of War. Last of Us in November, maybe.
Dylan in the chat with the Bloodborne remake. It's because it's going to be announced by FromSoft the day that PlayStation buys them later this year, and it's going to be a stealth launch. It's going to drop day and date.
Yeah, and it's going to be like 60 frames, all that nonsense. And everyone will just fucking cry. It'll be amazing.
Yeah. Loads will be blown.
Oh, just pants soiled everywhere. Everywhere.
Business Insider, so always be selling. Business Insider reports that PlayStation Maker, much like Microsoft, is experimenting with technology that will inject in-game ads into supported titles. Quote, the idea is to encourage developers to keep building free-to-play games which have soared in the pandemic by giving them a way to monetize them, end quote. 3 sources familiar with the plans have told the website. The article continues that the goal is for advertising to appear like it's part of the game itself, as a part of billboards or posters, for example, which we kind of saw back in
there's a
like
reference
Burnout.
to that, yeah.
Yeah, there's Burnout and those sort of things from back in the day. Where are we? There could also be reports attached to watching specific promos, such as XP boosts or in-game currency, again, similar to what you see on smartphones. Worryingly, there's also word that Sony is considering charging developers and publishers for data on consumer activity. Apparently, PlayStation has been cooking this concept for a while, and while nothing has been put in place yet, it's clearly an untapped area that console manufacturers are eager to exploit. Of course, it's not the first time the company has experimented with something like this. Wipeout HD was roundly criticized on the PS3 for briefly adding commercials to its loading screens.
And
But
yeah,
yeah,
and Burnout, as you mentioned, yeah.
Yeah, Burnout was one of those ones, but that kind of worked. Like, it was, you had big billboards all over the place. Like, it was a city that you're exploring. In cities, there are billboards. It's just that what was on the billboards were promos for legit products. Like, it was fine, and like people have referenced a lot, and I guess like it's something that is going to come up in the quick bits later on, but people have been referencing like Crazy Taxi and how that was pretty seamless. Now, obviously, not every game can do that. If, you know, God of War Ragnarok rolls out and there's a bloody Coca-Cola promo in the background, or Kratos is smashing a monster, energy drink, not a monster that he, you know, kills, or maybe smashing a monster while smashing a monster.
Hot.
Yeah, there's weird kinks there, I'm sure. Like, you know, that's obviously really in your face and on the nose, and we don't like it. But I think, like, if it works well in a core AAA title and it's not getting in the way, then I can deal with it. But obviously, this is a slippery slope formed by the free to play scene, the unwillingness of a portion of the community to not want to pay for games, so they've got to monetize them somehow. And this is where we're at.
See, the difference here is they mention in the article that this does base on free-to-play games. So if anything, they're just wanting to replicate the phone market. If we've learned anything, that the phone market is a thriving platform where every game succeeds incredibly, and it's not a handful of games that are doing really, really well. So it seems like a really good idea to solely replicate this only successful market of phone. Fuck no, what are they doing? Like, I in terms of like the idea of like XP boosters and all that sort of stuff can really eat my dick. Like, that stuff I'm totally not down for. But billboard and stuff, yeah, sure, why not? But
Max at his absolute finest. Mimir is not going to do an ad read. Quote, you'll lose your head at these crazy savings.
Oh, god damn it. Next thing you hear fucking Mimir talk about Manscaped, right? You have to use the promo code God of War. And then Kratos suddenly starts talking about his nicely shaved ball sack.
It's just as shiny as my head.
Yeah,
which head am I talking about?
It's the best way to look after your boys. That was bad. I'm sorry. Look,
I'm all for it.
It's one of those things. Like I said, it depends on how it's used. I think this is kind of as gross in a number of ways as microtransactions, etc. In like, hey, you know, unless if they are focusing just on the free to play games, which I don't tend to play anyway, so I don't fucking care. But what we have seen within the industry, what we have seen within the business, is it never stays exactly where they say it will. Like, oh, this will only appear in free to play games, and then you look over at fucking like Assassin's Creed, which is bumped with XP boosters, right? You know what I mean? Like, what began as like this simple idea has expanded and grown. Which means right now, they may mention that like, oh, we'll only do this in free-to-play games. Next thing you know, it's fucking everywhere. And it's invasive. And it's in every game out there. Hyperbolic. But that's my greater concern here. Is because if the game industry has taught us anything... slippery slope. You give them an inch, they take a mile. So like, oh, cool, it's an ad for, I don't know, fucking Donut King on PlayStation.
PlayStation Donuts.
Yeah. Cool. It's, you know, there's a promo for it when you boot up your PS5. Rad. But yeah, as you said, you know, you're suddenly playing Horizon Forbidden West and you look over and Katalu's just smashing a square donut.
No, he's smashing a Subway sub that's got the Uncharted 3 ad on it.
Yeah, he's using his, you know, robo arm to like, you know, crush beers or whatever. I don't know, it's much different things. It's interesting. But look, a name that like seems to come up all the time but hasn't delivered shit in many years is Amy Henning.
Not her fault.
Not her fault, but it's either shit or get off the pot, Amy. I'm sorry. President of the game studio Skydance New Media, Amy Henning, has announced that she and her team are working on a brand new Star Wars title. According to the blog post on the official Star Wars website, the game will be, quote, a narrative-driven action-adventure game featuring an original story in the Star Wars galaxy, end quote. Henning, who's best known for her work on the Uncharted franchise, says at the start that hasn't done anything since, says that the sci-fi classics were a formative part of her life. Quote, I've often described how seeing Star Wars in 1977 essentially rewired my 12-year-old brain, shaping my creative life and future indelibly. She says, adding that she's elated to be working with Lucasfilm Games once again. It sounds like this will be the second game to come from Skydance New Media. About 6 months ago, the studio announced its debut project would be a Marvel game of some sort. So there's a lot of work with Disney at the moment. So as with this game, the Star Wars title will continue to will come to quote traditional gaming platforms, which we can only assume means the PS5 will be in the mix. Now, look, I'm shitting on Amy Henning here. Only because, like, you know, granted, yes, not all the reasons that she, some of the reasons she hasn't released a game in near on 15 years, it's not her fault. There's a reason her shit keeps getting shut down, I'm sure. There's a
I'll give you a little pass when it comes to Uncharted 4. Because it seemed like they weren't happy with how long it was kind of taking to get to. They might have been very happy with the direction it was going, but it was taking too long to get to that point. And then when they, I guess, came to verbal blows and she was shown the door, they scrapped the entire, more or less the entire project. We were learning a bit about it just the other day that they kept all the locations, so a lot of the environments and stuff that had been done, but like all the work that Nolan North had been a part of in terms of mocap and all that, scrapped. They had to start from scratch. Because they reworked the story. All the locations they had, it was the kind of order was shuffled, which means sequentially, story-wise, all that kind of fell apart. I still, when it comes to the other half of things, which is obviously what happened at EA, as Dylan references in the chat, she did do a bit of writing for Battlefield Hardline. I think that was probably just to help.
Yeah, but a little bit of ghost writing, a little bit of like rewrites is very different to having a game led by her. So but I mean that in terms of like she has this renown within the industry, as the name of Amy Henning, and like they kind of many circles will put her on the same level as like your Kojimas or your Neil Druckmanns, right? Like these are known names within this space. There are people that are born, that are about to finish fucking high school, that haven't seen a game that she has written.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Battlefield Hardline one, I think it was like, she's just thrown her 2 cents in as she's first arrived at Visceral to help out with obviously what the Star Wars game that I believe had nothing, there was nothing that she did there. It was EA not wanting a single player game. Yeah. Except if it comes from, what's the name? Titanfall, Jedi Fallen Order developer. I've just gone blank on the name.
Respawn.
Yeah, because they can get away with anything. Like they are untouchable at this point within the EA infrastructure or system. So they can get away with it. They weren't happy with the single player game, and I mean it's only rumor mongering at the moment. So grain of salt and all that. But
yeah, look, I appreciate the fact
that it could be elements of this Visceral game that she was working on that are coming back thanks to her partnering up with Disney again.
Yeah, so I appreciate the fact check from Dylan there, because it is important. Like, even though it's a very minor part, it is still part of her resume, and I can't sit here and bury her or work completely without all the facts.
And she's also working on Forspoken. She's contributed a bit to Forspoken, the narrative, like the
that
writing
also
there.
Doesn't look good. So she's on a good run. On a good
We'll
run.
We'll see.
Yeah, but like it's one of those things. Like I appreciate that if it is that return to ragtag or whatever it was, that she was working on. Like that premise for what that looked has always caused my interest. I did like the pitch for ragtag. So like I say I'm hesitant. I want to fucking see it, but only because I like the idea. Like her name, if I'm being honest, doesn't do anything for me. And having it wheeling her out like fucking, The Undertaker, remember him? Yeah, he's a thing. He's still a name. He still does stuff. But it's the same thing. It doesn't win for me. I'm sorry.
Speaking of names that do matter, The Witcher 3, the PS5 version, still on the hunt. We've learned in the space of the last couple of weeks, there's a whole lot of Cyberpunk and Witcher and CD Projekt Red news that was kicking around. But specifically when it comes to all things Witcher, The Witcher 3, the Wild Hunt Complete Edition for PS5 has been delayed. From Twitter, we learned, quote, "We have decided to have our in-house development team conduct the remaining work on the next-gen version of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. We are currently evaluating the scope of work to be done and have thus had to postpone the Q2 release until further notice. We'll update you as soon as we can. Thank you for your understanding." That comes from the CD Projekt Red Twitter account. This is on the back of the news that The Witcher 3 has now surpassed 40 million sales, making it one of the most commercially successful role-playing games / video games ever made.
What I love about this is that they're like, oh, we were originally going to have it come out in Q2. They announced at the back end of Q2 that it's just coming out indefinitely. So, it was a really weird... It was bold strategy, Cotton, but
I mean, your opinion, why do you think that this is being delayed? Because I'm firmly of the mind that this is because of the war. And the fact that...
Oh, yeah, big time. Yeah.
Saber is based out of Russia.
Very, very true. It is one of those things. And, but it's not as if that happened last week as well, right? This is not me being a dick. It's they said it was going to come out at the end of Q2. If they literally, as shit started going down, if they went, hey, we're working with Saber, Saber's based out of Russia, shit's a little crazy right now, we may have to it's not as if CDPR have this fucking awesome branding they have to save right now. If anything, it would actually make them save face.
Yeah,
it's all in hindsight, of course. But I mean, if anything, this makes...
You can't make these sort of comments, though, as in, sorry, you being CD Projekt. You can't go out and make these declarative sort of statements on social media or anything like that because... There's a business aspect to this. But
those business aspects of due to in the same way that they talked about COVID, due to ongoing world circumstances and the business relations that we have in this particular area, as a result, the upcoming Witcher 3 Complete Edition will be delayed into the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I suppose if they didn't outline the fact that we were taking control, we're seizing control of it, then yeah, you can kind of get away with it.
Yeah. And then later on, they're as things have progressed or as things have escalated in that region, in order to ensure that we can deliver this game, we have chosen to bring it back to us.
Yeah, Dylan's dropped a comment in the chat saying it's most likely that the studio can't work on it anymore efficiently.
And I understand
as a part of it. I also think one of the main things is actually the financial situation. Is the fact that because Russia, the banks, everyone's being cut off, is there would be potential issues actually getting
just
money
paying
from
them.
Yeah, actually paying everyone involved. Even if you can set aside the fact that you guys, I mean, they're headquartered in Russia. I don't think it's actually...
No, I think they're...
But I think it might be a team in the US. But because everything kind of comes through, it's kind of... HQ is in Russia. That's where the issue actually kind of comes in. I think it's a purely financial one. It's we can't pay you for your work at this point. So let's stop that. We will no longer pay you, but you will also no longer develop this thing. We'll credit you because you've done a whole bunch of the work so far, but we'll have to take this one at the finish line.
Yeah, and look, once again, I think with these world circumstances as they are, I think that does play a very contributing factor, and I think it's likely the answer. So I don't see this being a Final Fantasy VII remake sort of challenge where they're they fucked it up so hard we had to take it back. So I'm not against it. I poo-pooed on it originally just because I like poo-pooing on CD Projekt Red. Mostly because everyone thought the sun shined out of their asses, and it turns out that was just a shitty company like everybody else. That part I really got a kick out of. But in this circumstance, I am a bit more forgiving and understanding.
Yeah. I mean, the whole circumstance. I mean, it's obviously bigger than a video game being delayed. So, as a massive stand for The Witcher 3, whatever, I'll deal. Just don't launch it now in the busiest point of Q3. Please don't do that.
So
You're just ruining every other game that comes out for me.
Dylan has been incredibly handy in the episode today, dropping in with some more fact checks.
Yeah, I did just find
They
out
have
as
confirmed,
well.
Google confirms that it is an American dev team, so technically not paying Russians. So maybe this is an optics thing, which is also questionable because CDPR have never given a fuck about optics. So
And now they need to.
Yeah, now they need to, and announcing it like at the end of that time like is not good optics either. So they really suck. But then Max in the chat goes, maybe they actually tested it and it was fucked, and we know this is a beloved franchise, and if we fuck this up on the back of Cyberpunk, there is no return. And I think that's a lot.
There could be that.
There is a lot of faith in that studio lost, and it well earned. Like they earned that loss. It's not as if they're just a studio that got shat on unnecessarily. Like they
earned a giant dump on their bed, just like we've heard about people having shit left on their bed. We don't need to talk about Johnny Depp.
No. Well, holy fuck, has that been a thing?
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to make a little.
Man, holy shit, has that been a thing to follow
Hasn't
this
that been a story this week?
Oh man, I only come in here and out because to me it's just celebrity drama. I don't care for it, but like, whew, ha,
fingertips being cut off, people shitting on beds.
Oh man. Like one of the things I saw was like Amber Heard's schedule. It was like 5, 5, wake up. 5:10, shit. 5:15, get out of bed. Just like I don't know, it just made me chuckle. All right, that's all the big parts. Let's jump into some quick biddies. Let's just run through these. So Sega is wanting to reboot Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio, according to rumors. Now, I've never played Jet Set Radio, but I have very distinct memories of Crazy Taxi. So because I didn't have
Is it the Offspring?
A Sega, no. So there was a university near Traralgon in Churchill, was Monash Uni, and in primary school there was this thing they used to do called I forget what it was called. Tournament of the Minds, I think it was.
Oh, yeah, I remember that being.
Yeah, so I used to compete in that because I was a giant fucking nerd. So like it was always held at the Monash University. So when we would go there throughout the day, with the day, like there was a little in their little cafeteria area, there was a Crazy Taxi machine, and every time we'd end up playing Crazy Taxi for most of the day, and then go off and do.
Shane did the same thing.
Yeah, was it sorry?
Shane did the same thing.
Yeah, that was awesome. I just played a stack of that shit. So, more Crazy Taxi? Why not? Next, Hello Games Sean Murray is overhyping shit again. So this week they announced that there's a new game coming from Hello Games, and then they've proceeded to lay down a bunch of like unnecessarily like oh, this thing's gonna be the next big fucking thing. So hey, Sean Murray, shut the fuck up. Insomniac's no, he hasn't. So which makes me wonder, like, was it PlayStation or was it him? You think you'd learn your lesson. Insomniac's Wolverine looks to be beginning its mocap, according to the lead animator on Twitter. So it's still a while away, but it's very exciting. Oh, zippy face from Pad. Ooh.
I will shoot one thing down. I will not specifically about the news. I can't talk about the news there. There was one of the writers for the game that I was going to be having on Dev Diary. PlayStation PR has currently pulled the pin on that because she will be. Well, she's got a book coming out. So she's already doing a ton of PR stuff around that. So I think it's more of a timing thing as opposed to anything else. So we're still looking at trying to do it. It's just a matter of when. But as a result, we talk about Wolverine.
Wait, so you had the chat, but you've had to pull.
No. Like we talk about like Twitter DMs and those sort of things.
Yeah.
We talk about the game, in the most basic of possible ways. But I guess just shooting, because I've kind of announced previously, I think it was actually when I was on FTP last, I was talking about how I was going to have someone from working on the game on the show. So I'll just, now that I'm back, say, hey, that's not happening for a while. I don't know when or if it'll ever happen, but fingers crossed. Thanks, PlayStation PR.
Normally you're okay. Dying Light 2 sells over 5 million in its first month. Still haven't played that yet. It's downloaded, ready to go. I'll play it eventually. 2 Point Campus gets itself a wizardry course. So if you can't be patient enough for Hogwarts Legacy, 2 Point Campus is where you're at.
If you are potentially protesting against Hogwarts Legacy,
true.
Then you've got an alternative.
Man, I'm so keen for 2 Point Campus. 2 Point Hospital was fucking tits. It was so good. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
I didn't play it in the end. I really wanted to, but I didn't. 2 Point Hospital, but I never got a chance to play it.
It was so good. I love it. It's one of those games I jump into occasionally and just kind of run it for a little while. I'm like, yeah. Tales from Borderlands, this sequel is coming in 2022. But Paul, you said 2023?
Yeah.
Did I mistype? Well, I'm a fuckhead, aren't I?
Yeah, I think you've just mistyped.
Yeah, there you go. Outriders gets its new DLC in June called World Slayer. Now, I did look into it, and it's like, oh, it's a bunch of story. I'm like, I didn't give a fuck about this game's story.
If you're going to play it, mate, I'll play it because I'm still super keen to actually play Outriders. I just never got a chance to.
Oh.
If you might recall, I installed it early in the year. I've since deleted it because I need hard drive space. But like I had the intent to finally get into it, and I didn't get a chance to, and I want to do that at some point. So if you are going to play World Slayer, I'm in to play the campaign and then get myself up to speed and then go with you.
Yeah, like I might. Like I really enjoyed Outriders. Like the campaign I gave very little shits about, but like I just loved playing it. In the same way that I really enjoyed the Division 2. I couldn't tell you what the fuck happened, but I played so much Division 2. Game was awesome.
Nobody cares about the story of these games.
No.
Jeff Shooty Bang Bang.
Yeah, Jeff Grubb has shown off some sneaky Skate 4 pre-alpha footage. It's pretty tidy. You check it out.
I haven't checked it out, but I've heard it's been doing
hot and flustered for some Skate 4. Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga is the biggest selling Lego release. That's massive. As you said,
that's huge because it's happened so fast.
Yeah. And once again, I think it's one of those. The Lego games were getting a saturation point. Yeah. Right? Like there's just another one, and they lost their oomph. But
Marvel, DC, Jurassic Park, Harry Potter, Star Wars, like they were churning them out all the time.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, but like for me, it's one of those things. Like that time away, probably. What have you spotted?
No, I was looking at my Lego games on the shelf there to see if there was an IP that I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, had that look of like, oh fuck, something just rocked in my shed. As you mentioned before, Page. Yeah, Tiny Tina's DLC, Coiled Captors, is out now. And as you said, it's about 40 minutes and not very good. Oh, Lego Rock Band. Can't forget Lego Rock Band.
It's perfectly fine what the DLC is, but it's just not...
It's supplementary. It's not expansion. It's like DLC, yeah.
It's not the main course that you tend to expect from a Borderlands game DLC.
Yeah.
And don't give me the shit that it's not a Borderlands game because it's still a Borderlands game. It's only this far short of Borderlands 2 in quality.
Yeah.
Borderlands was my game of the year when it came out.
This week, they also showed off Saints Row's customization potential in a new trailer for the upcoming game at the back end of the year. So I believe Huzo over at Player 2 got his hands on with it.
Yeah. No, it was basically him just being shown off all the stuff that then ultimately got made available.
So what were some of the things that he saw? For those that you go check out the Player 2.
Please go check out the preview because I haven't yet. So I couldn't actually tell you what's there. I've been holidaying. I wasn't reading that shit.
That's cool. And finally, after 2 years of support, Suckerpunch will be moving away from Ghost of Tsushima, or the first one at least. Whether they're working on a sequel, who knows? But they're stepping away. But they probably are. Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. And in terms of upcoming release dates, there's nothing.
Stanley Parable.
Yeah, the only game that is of note, as Paj mentioned, is the Stanley Parable. Other than that,
I'll highlight one other potential thing based on an observation I made only an hour before we started recording. I was on PSN profiles, and I couldn't help but notice that a little game called Unpacking had its trophies there, pop.
Oh.
So we learned that it is. I mean, we knew it was coming to PlayStation. Even when I had Ren and Tim on Dev Diary, they said it was going to come. But we saw recently, I think it's Limited Run, I think, that has got retail or box copies of it. I was really excited for that, but they didn't actually announce a date for it. So it seems like it might be very close to either just stealth dropping, like here it is, or at least getting a date that is then very imminent. It could be an announcement this week that it's coming next week, sort of thing. And that's awesome.
Oh, and completely unrelated. Did I talk about how I finally got this statue? By the way, now it lives here in the studio.
Social media post, maybe, or maybe it was in that chat.
So look, for those that don't know, I have spent the better part of like how many fucking years wanting to get this. Now, granted, I see the Last of Us one behind you, which is the next one that I would like to acquire at some point. That's beautiful.
Or do you want my 2 Tremor Tusks?
No, it's just the Last of Us statue now is the one that I'm after. So, there's a lot of... I think I've shared the story numerous times about this one. I didn't realize that I wanted this at time of release, because I remember getting a review copy for Horizon, and I remember playing it pre-release at EB Expo Media Night X amount of years ago, but by then there was no chance I was getting collectors. And then later there was a different event where they had didn't pre-order it. I remember going to a different EB Expo probably the year after, and I saw it there, and I was like, "Oh shit, I got to buy that," but I couldn't fit it in my carry-on, so I didn't buy it, and I regretted it ever since. Then
because you just paid $5,000 for it.
Yeah. Then I almost bought this off a friend of mine, but shit happened and I wasn't able to buy it at the time. But then finally, after years, I picked it up. Facebook Marketplace. Some dude in, I don't know, somewhere in Victoria. $60. You didn't know it. Oh, what a steal.
And I mean, it looks in good nick.
It's in great nick. It's in fantastic nick. Absolute steal. I just wanted to share that because I loved it.
Good shit.
Yeah, it's good shit. It's good. I'm so glad I finally picked that up. It's great. What's going on in the chat? Nothing.
We've got Rogue League coming out this week, but it's not coming to PlayStation.
Yeah.
So fuck it.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, yeah, nothing much. I love it. Anyway, that does bring us to the end of the show. A slightly longer one this week, Padge, as we make up for last week off. Which is
never a short show when I come on.
Oh no, you and I just start bullshitting for like the longest time. And I said at the start of this show, where we were like, hey, maybe we should do a 3-man show. Maybe it should be you, me, and Max. Imagine how fucking long that show's gonna be.
Yeah, I think that's sometimes food. I don't think the internet is quite ready for that.
Oh, I think if that's it's a sometimes food in the same way people might want it all the time.
It's a sometimes food in the way that like PlayStation donuts are, which reminds me there's like a little bit of icing here still at the bottom of the box.
All right.
It's blue, so for the X, so I'm just going to quickly smash that down.
I don't know. I still think that might be a good idea. You're without a PlayStation show. I think you, myself, and Max would do an absolute fucking killer.
Right, Dill.
Oh shit! Is he gonna lick the box? Hot.
I just took the paper out. Do you want me to like?
Yeah, and then like funnel that shit in your face like a chip packet. There you go.
I'll make sure like I leave the
yeah, it's hot. Yeah.
Good night, people. Jump biddies.
But there you go. Thank you very much, Padge, for joining us for this, for filling in for Max.
Just trying to push it to 2 hours now at this point.
Yeah, ended up being in the chat anyway, which is a ton of fun. But yeah, maybe that's something we can. Maybe that's something we can look forward to in the future. Maybe we can get more Padge all the time. I think that would be amazing. I'd love to do that.
Or to Shane's idea, like we could just have ASMR where I'm eating PlayStation donuts for 2 hours.
We'll have to like just get them shipped like every.
We'll just
buy bulk order them and like put them in the freezer.
Of them now.
Put them in the freezer, yeah.
Yeah. Preserve until wheel one out each week.
Before we close it up, where can they find you, Padge?
Paul James Games on Twitter. Please, Patreon money for the donuts done. There we go. Shane's onto it. Paul James Games on Twitter for me. Make sure to check out the website player2.net.au and the Player2 Twitter accounts, Player2AU. My main product that I personally put out into the world is Dev Diary. I've referenced it a couple times because I'm also a dirty shill. If you have not heard of Dev Diary before, it is an interview series with game developers from throughout the globe, basically talk about their adventure through the industry so far. Think of it as being for the Aussies here, This Is Your Life of video games.
Hey.
And I am Ray Martin.
And look,
without the soothing voice.
No, and it's in the same way that For the Players is the late night show of PlayStation podcasts, so that make us the Rove Live, I guess.
Well, I mean, like, This Is Your Life would go for quite a long time, and then would be followed by late night television. So we are almost the 1-2 punch. I'm the boring bit that's followed by the entertaining stuff afterwards. Or the adult show before the real adult show. Dev Diary is on podcast services, fortnightly show. Game developers, they come on, talk through their stories so far. We've had some really awesome people, and hopefully one day I will get to talk about Wolverine again. Fingers crossed.
What a tease. What an absolute fucking tease is. Yeah, love it. Anyways, thank you all for joining us once again. As I say each and every week, one of the greatest things you can share with someone is your time. So thank you so much for taking the time out of whenever you listen to this to listen to myself, Max, and or Paul bullshit about PlayStation. But this PlayStation conversation happened on a Monday morning at 8 a.m. on your podcast services, 9 a.m. on those YouTubes. If you want to join that conversation, you can go to our socials, Facebook, Twitter, Discord, Instagram. All those links are in the description below. But if you want to join that conversation as it happens and be in the chat just like it is gone off tonight, thank you everyone for jumping in. He's got absolute crazy in the chat tonight, which is great. You get over to twitch.tv/thepopculturist, where you can watch us record this show in live, where you can jump in said chat and become part of the show. If you want to support the show, you can by telling your friends, telling your family all about this PlayStation podcast. If you are on podcast services, so give us a 5-star rating and a written review. You're also on Spotify. But if you are on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment below. I'll endeavor to answer every single comment. And if you want to support the show financially, you can at patreon.com/thepopculturist, as well as our merchandise store, popculturist.com/shop. We can buy shirts and other assorted shit without logos on it. Or you can help support the brands that help support us. So if you head over to au.manscaped.com, use the promo code FTP, you get a nicely trimmed ball sack. It will smell good, and you'll get 20% off your order and free worldwide shipping. It's a good deal overall. However, until next week, I'm Ryan Betson.
I'm Paul James Smashing Donuts.
Hot. And that was For the Players.